Okay, I am Jim Porter and I like to make videos that get people talking about things that I think are important, topics. And to make it easier for today, I've chosen a very non-controversial topic, abortion. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm sure that won't be too much of an issue. What I'd like people to do in the vein of making discussions that are interesting is not necessarily to like and subscribe, but I would like people to instead comment down below in any way you want, and I will try to make sure I don't have to censor anything unless it's abusing someone of a vulnerable population. And the other thing I'd like you to do is share this video because I want people to watch it so that I have more ideas in the comments down below that will sharpen my intellect and my arguments and maybe cause me to change my mind and make a retraction video. So please help me with that. Is there anything else? Yeah, no, that's it. First, a note. Any person listening to this video who identifies as female is invited to criticize this video and me on the grounds that I am not a woman and do not understand what it's like to be one, or on any other grounds you choose if you identify as a woman. I will consider that an education. I realize that I am speaking from a position of ignorance. So, to begin with, here's my thesis. When a woman is pregnant, she is physically stuck with the choice of whether to carry a pregnancy to term or terminate it. No one else is physically stuck with this choice. No law and no judge's ruling and no punishment can relieve the woman of that choice. It is an existential reality. No other situation involves this type of dilemma. The fetus or embryo is in her body. Her body is affected by its presence inside her. Physically speaking, one could argue that the baby's body is her body because they are physically contiguous until the cord is cut. But I do realize that people generally agree that the embryo at some point is considered alive and an individual person with all the rights that we humans have formulated as universal to all people. So I get that, but that does not mean that we suddenly forget the mother's equally immutable rights. Though I think some people would like to. That's sort of a judgment, and that's mind reading. But tell me if you believe that the woman should consider the baby as more important than her, or that we should consider the baby's rights more important than the woman's rights. Some would say that it's the mother's responsibility to put the embryo first, reasoning that that's just what mothers do. But that, in my opinion, is not clear. It is just an assertion, perhaps based on a deeply held belief in real life, but that is not just what mothers do. Whether a mother should always put her fetus or embryo first is not clear. The truth is, there is no answer. There is no easy answer. There is no answer that can easily be satisfactory for all pregnancy situations. It is, to me, a terrible, terrible decision to be stuck with, and women are stuck with it. And the mother is the only one who is specifically, unilaterally burdened with this decision. Everyone else can get out of it. They can walk away. They can chastise her. They can outlaw her, but they cannot take away her requirement to decide what ultimately she is going to do. Even if she wishes, they could take the decision off her hands. They cannot. The judge could say, "You are forbidden to terminate this pregnancy according to the law, or you will receive such and such a penalty." And she still has to be the one who will decide if she will obey the judge's order or risk the penalty. The choice is impossible to remove. If you tied her hands up, literally, and put her in a cell to wait for a forced full-term delivery, you are cruel. And still, she has to make the decision of whether to try to get her hands free and herself out of confinement to be able to terminate the pregnancy or to carry the pregnancy to term. I'm pretty confident that some people would be in favor of that last scenario, but then again, that's me being judgmental. And please tell me if I do not represent your opinion or your internal thoughts and beliefs. And in any case, it may actually describe how some women feel when they are pregnant and considering an abortion, like their hands are tied. If you've ever made a difficult decision that only you could make, you then may be aware that no one has the position to judge you poorly for your decision. So realizing that the pregnant person and only the pregnant person has to answer this unanswerable question, our only solution is to support her while she handles the burden of deciding. Now, a caveat here, all of this verbiage is not intended to lock a woman into thinking that she should feel tortured about her personal decision around a pregnancy. I don't want this video to imply that at all. I'm merely stating that a woman cannot not decide. I'm also suggesting that it can be often a painful process to make that decision for some women. And yes, for other women, it might be an obvious choice that they are making and that they feel fine about it. And good on you about that, because I don't think you should have to feel anything bad about it necessarily. I just know that decisions like that have been told to me to be difficult. So now, because it is such an overwhelmingly difficult decision for some, I recommend that the woman should be able to request any assistance she feels would help in making her decision. I'm talking about changing the whole process and the whole law about that. And this is what I'm suggesting, that she is able to request and get any assistance she feels would help in making her decision, along with getting any support, material support and emotional support she needs in following through on it. She could convene a team of experts to answer her questions, throw out ideas, and come up with some creative recommendations, her input being primary and her decision being the final word. Such a process would cost money, so those who believe that a woman needs to make a wise decision would be willing to pay for that if they really, really believe the woman needs to make a wise decision. She may decide to raise the child, but of course, some women will need resources to help ensure that their decision will lead to a successful outcome for the child and for herself. You got to think about the mother. So she'll perhaps be requesting a lot of resources, cash being one of them. Cash is among the most flexible of resources. Another, of course, is that anyone who is really concerned about the baby will be interested in contributing to the mother's success in terms of cash and other resources. I imagine that they would be pushing to be the first in line to provide as much of the cash amount that the mother believes she'll need. They might even try to bargain her up to a higher amount of money because of how important this baby's life is to them. Wouldn't you think? So, to conclude, what I've been trying to say is that for a pregnant woman, a woman who is pregnant, not having a choice is not an option. Everyone else needs to shut up or get on board with whatever she needs and whatever she decides. Now, Jim, you might say, didn't you make two entire videos about how and why you believe free will doesn't even exist? Doesn't that mean that this whole video is just plain stupid or contradictory to what you've said before? Doesn't that mean that the woman does not have a choice at all, that that very thing you're saying she cannot choose not to do doesn't even exist? Well, I would say yes, I did make two videos like that. Thanks for the promo. You can find those videos on this channel. Please share and comment like all videos. Then I'd explain to you what I believe about free will now and how choice is still an issue and what choice really means. I do believe people make decisions in the same sense that computers make decisions. Computers make choices because their internal circuitry is structured to compute incoming data and return an output. Computers are pretty sophisticated nowadays, and they can return very surprising output compared to what the programmer, builder, and user expected. The computer chooses, but it does not have free will. It could not have made a different decision. If you rewound and went back in time to before the computer decided, the same decision would occur over and over again. That's not free will. And this is the same for human beings. We are just more sophisticated computers. Now, I can hear someone say that human choices are unpredictable. So I will say that I agree that human choices are definitely not 100% predictable and is always likely to be a surprise, but this does not mean that we have free will. By the way, I know I'm implying that there's no soul inside, nothing inside driving the car is self driving. And yes, I tend to believe that we are a self driving car. So you might want to leave some arguments in favor of a soul down in the comments and pass this on to your other believers. So there are two reasons that humans are unpredictable until their choices are made. We do not know what people are going to choose most of the time. Sometimes we have a better idea and sometimes we don't. When you watch people in politics, you can kind of tell where they're going to go. And there are reasons for that. But there are reasons for why we are unpredictable. The first reason is that there are just too many variables influencing a human, way too many to consider. We have way more inputs coming than any human built computer so far. So there will be definite prediction error. We can predict with varying degrees of confidence what people will do, and some of those degrees of confidence are not very good degrees of confidence. So hooray for unpredictability. To explain the second reason that human choices are so unpredictable, I'm going to have to add a notion that will contradict my previous statement about going back in time, which said that if you made a decision and I went back in time so you could have another whack at the decision, you wouldn't be able to decide differently because you would be the same machine receiving the same inputs you would have had before you made the original decision, and you would just come out with the same decision over and over again. Well, I'm going to put in a notion that contradicts that. And the notion that contradicts this is the quantum concept of waveforms collapsing into a particle when observed. People cannot predict where a particle is going to occur when a probability wave collapses into a single particle. And that happens when the waveform is observed. I believe that this feeds enough variation to a system that rewinding the tape on a decision will actually yield a different decision every time, or at least a slightly different form of the decision. So, not a direct repeat, just like you're rewinding a video on Netflix and playing it over again. It would be like a whole new movie developing at that point. You don't know what it's going to be an hour from there when the movie finally ends. So that does not mean free will, though, because nevertheless, this idea still supports my point because humans make decisions not from free will, but from the structure of their hardware, just the same way computers make decisions, and also the inputs coming in. The only difference is that our circuitry is more complex than any existing human made computer. This circuitry, by the way, for the experience of strong emotions during the decision making process, is very influential. We feel things when we have to make decisions. That's a difference between us and computers, but it may not be a difference for long. So that's why I'm advocating empathy for a pregnant woman, no matter what else is going on, because I believe a pregnant woman needs someone who thinks of her first and puts her as the primary decision maker for everything, because they're going through something no one else is going to be able to go through, let alone have to go through. So though no one has free will, the decision to carry a pregnancy to term or to terminate it emerges from the woman's cognitive circuitry only. There may have been inputs, but her logic gates calculate the output. She's the only one whose body is truly able to make the choice, and she can't get out of that. Okay, thanks. Please, like I said, share and comment, and I'll like that a ton.